Right now, multiple wars are happening at the same time, and most people don't realize how connected they are. War is no longer a distant headline from a single isolated place. Right now, as of March 2026, the global landscape is shifting into a single unfolding story. A drone strike in the Middle East can now directly influence the price you pay for gasoline, the availability of goods on your local shelves, and strategic decisions in a war thousands of miles away. This is not a prediction, it is an observation of the present reality. The threads of international conflict, trade, and technology are so tightly interwoven that a pull on one can fray the whole fabric. Understanding these connections is no longer just for experts, it is essential for every informed citizen. The tendency is to view each crisis in a vacuum, but that view is dangerously outdated. Today's conflicts are linked by shared alliances, interdependent economies, the global flow of energy and military hardware. Russia and Iran, for instance, are not just fighting their own battles, they are sharing intelligence and military technology, creating a feedback loop that intensifies both conflicts. What happens in the skies over Tehran affects the defenses of Kyiv, revealing a battlefield geometry that spans continents. Consequences are spreading faster and wider than ever. It is a quiet contagion traveling not by marching armies, but through digital networks of global markets and the physical choke points of maritime trade. The closure of a single strait, like the Strait of Hormuz, can trigger a cascade of global effects. This essay will explain how the Middle East and Ukraine conflicts are merging, what that means for the global economy, and how it already impacts our daily lives. The goal is not to incite fear, it is to foster awareness. In a world so deeply linked, ignorance is a luxury we cannot afford. By examining the facts on the ground, rising death tolls, surging oil prices, strained supply chains, we can better understand the challenges ahead. The first step is to recognize its arrival and comprehend the forces driving it. To understand the current situation, we must first map the primary zones of conflict. The two most significant are the ongoing war in Ukraine, initiated by Russia's full-scale invasion, and the escalating conflict in the Middle East, which now involves direct military exchanges between a US-Israeli coalition and Iran. For over 2 years, the world has been focused on trench warfare and aerial bombardments in Eastern Europe. Since late February 2026, a new and potentially more disruptive front has opened. This conflict is not confined to one country. Iran has launched retaliatory strikes across 9 nations, including US allies, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait. In less than a month since Feb 28, the fighting caused significant casualties, 1,500 reported killed, 18,500 plus injured. Tehran has launched waves of missiles and drones, striking Israel and American bases across the region. A March 1st drone strike in Kuwait killed 7 American service members. Direct US-Iran confrontation, plus attacks on major energy producers, mark a dangerous new phase for global security. Meanwhile, the war in Ukraine has intensified. Russia launched one of its largest aerial assaults, deploying 948 drones in 24 hours. Ukraine faces a growing deficit of air defense missiles, Zelensky warns. Western focus and hardware are being pulled in 2 directions, creating a strategic vulnerability Moscow exploits. These conflicts are becoming strategically linked. The United States and allies are stretched, from Patriot batteries to political capital. Russia and Iran are deepening cooperation. US intelligence reports Moscow is giving Tehran targeting intelligence and advising on drone tactics from Ukraine. That cooperation turns 2 regional wars into a coordinated challenge to the global order, with profound implications for international stability. At the heart of the global economic risk is a narrow strip of water, the Strait of Hormuz. In 2025, an average of 20 million barrels of oil and petroleum products pass through it every day, roughly 20% of global seaborne oil trade. The stability of the global energy market, and by extension the global economy, depends on uninterrupted passage of tankers through this strait. With the escalating conflict, that free passage is now in jeopardy. After Israel struck Iran's South Pars gas field, Iran retaliated, hitting energy sites in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. As of mid-March 2026, transit has been severely curtailed for 3 weeks, creating what many call the most severe supply shock in modern history. It's been described as the largest disruption to energy since the 1970s energy crisis. Even with OPEC plus flexibility, not enough to offset 20 million barrels per day. A just-in-time energy system meets a massive interruption, sending shockwaves through transportation, manufacturing, and agriculture. The first and most immediate ripple effect from the conflict in the Middle East has been a dramatic surge in oil prices. From late February to mid-March 2026, Brent leapt from around $73 to over $103, peaking above $126, faster than many recent conflicts. This spike is a tax on the entire global economy, pricier gasoline, higher heating bills, and rising operating costs across businesses. Airlines, shipping companies, and trucking firms pass fuel expenses to consumers via higher ticket prices and shipping fees. Manufacturers see higher energy and input costs, leading to more expensive goods. Beyond energy, critical supply chains are disrupted. The Strait of Hormuz region exports roughly 30% of globally traded ammonia-based nitrogen fertilizers. With the strait closed just before spring planting, yields are threatened, and food prices will likely rise later in the year. In the U.S., urea prices jumped 32% in a week at New Orleans, from $516 to $683 per metric ton. Even if U.S. ammonia imports come elsewhere, a global constriction raises prices everywhere. From Iowa farms to family grocery bills, the free flow of goods, from oil to helium to fertilizer, has been choked, and the global economy is feeling the squeeze. It is a domino effect that starts in the Persian Gulf and ends in wallets worldwide. For most people, geopolitical conflicts can feel abstract and distant, but the current convergence is creating tangible effects that are impossible to ignore. The most visible impact is at the gas station. The surge from under 75 to over 100 per barrel translates directly to what you pay to fill your tank. This increase acts like a sudden tax, forcing difficult choices on households. The second area is the grocery store. Disrupted fertilizer shipments are a slow-motion crisis for food security. Modern yields depend on nitrogen fertilizers, and with 30% of traded supply restricted, food prices will climb. A third impact is energy grids under strain. In Sri Lanka, the government ordered a 25% cut, switching off streetlights, neon signs, and billboards. It shows the hard choices other nations may face, how a distant war can turn lights off thousands of miles away. Explosions in Tehran are sending shockwaves to gas pumps in Ohio, to farms in Brazil, and to municipal lighting grids in Colombo. This is what it looks like when a geopolitical crisis comes home, affecting the fundamental costs of living. It's really that direct. The conflict in the Middle East does not exist in a vacuum. It is intertwined with the war in Ukraine. This connection is actively cultivated through a deepening strategic partnership between Russia and Iran, both isolated by Western sanctions. An alignment has become practical military collaboration impacting the battlefield, especially in drones. Iran's low-cost one-way attack drones have been key to Russia, striking Ukrainian cities, power grids, and military positions. U.S. intelligence says Moscow assists Tehran with drone operations, sharing tactics honed against Ukraine's air defenses. Russia is reportedly supplying Iran with targeting intelligence on U.S. troops, warships, and aircraft in the Middle East. Tehran has launched more than 2,000 one-way UAVs. The drone that killed 7 American service members in Kuwait reflects doctrine refined over Ukraine. For Russia, the Middle East war diverts American attention, resources, and hardware from Ukraine, enabling a massive offensive with nearly 1,000 drones in a day, 2 fronts in a broader, interconnected struggle. A critical and finite resource in modern warfare is advanced air defense. Systems, like Patriot, are essential for cities, critical infrastructure, and military forces against missiles and drones. But inventories are limited, and interceptors are costly and slow to produce. Every battery defending Riyadh or Abu Dhabi from Iranian barrages is one that cannot protect Ukrainian cities like Odessa or Kharkiv. The conflicts directly compete for the same defensive weaponry. As Iran launches thousands of drones and missiles, interceptor demand in the Middle East skyrockets. Every interceptor used over Saudi Arabia is one fewer for Ukraine's already strained network. If the Middle East war drags on, Ukraine's air defense worsens, especially as Russia leans on harder-to-intercept ballistic missiles that require Patriots. As the US prioritizes its troops and key energy allies in the Gulf, Ukraine may be increasingly exposed. The defense of one ally may come at the cost of another's survival, a stark reality in a world of finite resources and multiplying threats. The first and most direct example, sudden energy conservation measures in import-dependent nations. Sri Lanka's order to switch off streetlights and commercial signs is a stark illustration driven by turmoil in the Persian Gulf. Heavily reliant on imported fuel, supply shortages and unaffordable prices plunge cities into partial darkness. A second example, a 32% surge in urea fertilizer prices in a single week at New Orleans. Triggered by the strait's closure, it immediately raises the cost to grow a bushel of corn, showing up as higher cereal and beef prices. A third example, Russia's coordinated launch of 948 drones in 24 hours, timed to exploit global distraction. An attack on a church in Lviv by a modernized Iranian-designed drone, reported by Ukrainian sources, symbolizes this new interconnected reality. Lights out in Colombo, fertilizer spikes in New Orleans, and drone swarms over Ukraine are early tremors of a larger geopolitical earthquake. The era of contained regional conflicts is over. Instability in one node now sends shocks through the entire network. The convergence of these conflicts is formidable, but the correct response is not fear or panic. What is required is calm awareness and practical preparation. Understand clearly, decide rationally. Panic buying only worsens shortages. Stay informed, watch the price of oil, follow shipping through choke points like the Strait of Hormuz, listen to official guidance, make small adjustments, combine trips, conserve energy at home. These add up. Leaders must de-escalate, reopen channels, secure reserves, diversify supply chains, and reinforce readiness. Manage the immediate. Restore long-term stability. Interconnectedness transmits shocks, but also solutions. The coming weeks will be critical. Knowledge is our most powerful tool. So, stay calm, stay informed, and stay prepared. In a shifting world, clarity is our best defense.